So like I said, we've got a bunch of these low spots and, you know, whatever else. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our epoxy resin and we're just gonna fill them. Just like that. That one's actually got a little strand of carbon in it. Weird, must have come off sanding. And we'll fill all these. Just like that. And now you're better off having a high spot than a low spot. And the reason I say that is we're going to be sanding this hood regardless. So if we have a high spot, we can level it out. Whereas if it's a low spot, you're filling again, right? So this paintbrush is definitely overkill for this. See, just like that. Just like that. Whoop, that's a lot. Probably gonna regret that later. Right? Okay, and then I'll finish this up and we'll come back once it cures a little bit. And then we'll give it a sand and see what we can do with it from there. But kind of gives you an idea. I got to do those big gouges next here. I'm sure you guys don't want to watch that. And then go from there. Well guys, I'm not sure what happened on that last clip, but that was me putting the third layer of epoxy down. Well, sorry, that was me putting 3 layers of epoxy down. I'm not sure what happened. Things are pretty good. I'm not happy with a few spots. You can see some of the body work. You know, it is what it is. It was a really rough hood. We'll get it polished up tomorrow. We're gonna let it sit overnight here and cure. And then we'll come and cut it tomorrow and polish it and see how it looks. But overall, I mean, you can see it looks pretty good. It looks wavy in the camera. I think it's just the LED lights. The epoxy itself isn't wavy, but overall, I mean, not bad. You can see a little bit of body work here and there, but for what it was to where it is, I mean, night and day. We'll get it cleaned up tomorrow and see how it looks. So this is a quick run over with 400. I got obviously a long ways to go, but I wanted to show you guys what you're kind of up against here. So these are the low spots, and we want this all to look like this right here. So all these low spots, we want to get nice and flat is the idea here, right? And around the hood pin, down here, this is where that big groove was, but we should be able to fill it. So those are the low spots we're trying to fill. There was another big one up here. So we may need to come back and fill it a little more, but we'll see. For now, we're gonna sand this whole hood in 400 and then probably go to a 600 and we'll see what it looks like from there. So you can start to see how things are coming along. You know, you got high spots and low spots, but ideally what you want is to try and get it as close to this as you can. We're gonna work on this a bit more. I may go something a little more aggressive, like a 320. You don't wanna drop down to like a 220 or something, you're gonna burn through for sure. So we're just gonna keep cruising here and I'm gonna try and get this half done so you guys can see the differences between the two of them. something like this, guys, is what we're looking for. You can see how it's consistent. It's smooth, it's dirty, of course, but it's relatively smooth. These are water spots. This isn't low spots, but okay, I lied. That's a low spot. A couple low spots. Okay, we gotta fix those. I'm going to put another layer of epoxy on here, just because I took a lot off and I wanna make sure it's actually sealed really good. So I'll put it on there. I do expect it should turn out decent, better than I expected. I managed to fix this area here, and we'll see what happens. We'll get another layer of epoxy on there. We're gonna let it cure, then we're gonna hit it with 400, and then we're gonna clear coat it. So we've let it sit overnight. Now comes the big question is, can we wet sand this? Might be a little bit early, hard to say. Overall, it's not too bad. You know, like we do have some highs and low spots as we figured we would with the spray paint enamel clear coat. There's a little bit of dust in it. I mean, we are working in a small garage, so we're gonna get out what we can. We are gonna wet sand it. We are gonna start with a 6, we're gonna go to an 8, then a 1000, then a 12, then we'll polish and see how it comes out. Okay guys, so a couple pointers I'll give you here. I'm not by no means an expert at this, so take it with a grain of salt. You want a little bit of water. It prevents your sandpaper from plugging up with dust. And you don't want a lot of pressure, like almost no pressure. Back and forth, side to side, just like that. So this is, like I said, a 600 grit. After this, we're gonna go to a 8, then a 1000 and a 12 before we polish. You'd usually probably want a block for this, but being the overall condition of this hood anyway, I'm not overly concerned with much. I'm not actually even gonna wet sand too much. My plan is just to get some of the overspray off and make it smooth. Now let's talk about that overspray for a second. You would typically want to cover the car, but once you see my plan for the rest of the car, it's not going to matter. But something to keep in mind if you're doing your car and you're spray painting, definitely want to cover things up. Okay, we're going to go back and forth and down, crisscross. Like I say, you usually want to use a block. You can use a block of wood, and anything flat will work. And just work one area at a time until you see it come out smooth. Just like that. And then what you can do is you take a piece of paper towel after, dry it off, like so. You can actually see, if you look, all the high and low spots. So where it's shiny and the sandpaper hasn't touched, that's your high and low. This is all low spot, this was a high spot. And the goal is to have this all consistent, all smooth, the entire hood. Like I say, we're gonna start with a 6, go to an 8, then a 1000, then a 12, and then we'll polish it. Okay guys, let's talk about what's happening here. Right now, I've got the Meguiar's level 1 medium cut polish because we're at 1200 grit right now. You don't need a lot, and it is actually very watery. So if you do use this product, you know, just put a little bit down. This is just a single stage foam pad, super cheap polisher, nothing fancy. The key is though, you want to make sure you keep it flat. You ever see vehicles driving down the road and they have swirl marks everywhere in them? That's from A, using too aggressive of a cutting compound, and B, they're digging into the paint like this. You don't want to do that. You want it nice and flat, even, nice, slow. You don't want to do this in direct sunlight.
If you are doing it on a hotter day, like it's only about 20 degrees in this garage here, if you're outside on a hotter day, you can use a little bit of water to keep it cool. I guess liquid cool it, one might say. Just back and forth like this. Over here. Make sure you keep a decent amount of compound. You want to keep it moving so you don't accidentally burn through the clear coat, because we did only spray paint that clear coat on there. And it's probably thinner than paper at this point, because I did sand quite a bit off to try and get that orange peel out of it. But again, if you see the rest of the car, you'll understand why I'm not too concerned. Just kind of a cheap project car. Okay, let's wipe it off. See what we got here. You can see the carbon starting to come through the epoxy and the clear coat. Like I say, you don't want to spend too much time with that aggressive compound. Probably equivalent to, maybe a 1400 grit or something like that.
This is it, guys, kind of the finished product. I'm not super proud of it, but I am proud of, it did come a long ways from where it was, I guess. Could do better. I mean, there is some dust in it, there is some low spots, but being where it came from and the environment we're working in, I don't know, I wouldn't say it's terrible. On a 1 to 10, you guys tell me, I'm going to say it's probably a 9. That said, there's some more carbon stuff coming up, so make sure you guys subscribe. I do have a lot of cool projects I have in mind for this car, and we'll see you guys on the next one.